Hey, this is Rick Thomas with Thomas Family Insurance coming to you with your Medicare Monday, Week 6. Today we're going to break down what Medicare Part A is, what it does not do, what it costs, and all the things that's included with Medicare Part A. Keep in mind that most people do not have Part A by itself. They'll have Part A with Part B and a Medicare supplement, or they have Part A and Part B and Medicare Advantage, or they're continuing to work and have Part A just as a backup plan. But we're going to talk about just Part A by itself, what it does and what it does not do. All right. So, Part A will provide essential healthcare services for hospital stays. When we're inpatient in the hospital, that gets filed under Medicare Part A. So it does include different things like being hospital admitted to the hospital, some skilled care, some home health care, hospice. We're going to talk about things that are covered. And we're going to talk about what your potential out-of-pocket expenses are going to be with Medicare Part A by itself. Now remember, most people don't have Part A by itself, but there are some that do, and they're in pretty dangerous situation if they have a major health event. All right. All right, so we're going to break down what Medicare Part A cost. We'll first start with the premiums. As long as you work for at least 10 years or 40 quarters, you don't pay anything for Medicare Part A. If you worked less than 40 quarters or 10 years, you worked, say, between 30 and 39 quarters, Part A will cost you $285 per month. If you worked less than 30 quarters, Medicare Part A would cost $513 per month. Now, if you personally didn't work, but you are married to someone who did, that will count towards your Medicare Part A working period. So this is mainly for people who never worked, they don't receive state aid, or they don't get any other assistance. They potentially have to pay for Medicare Part A. Very few people do, though. The deductible for Medicare Part A is huge, and it's per hospital benefit period. We'll talk more about that later, but there is no limitation to the number of deductibles that you have with Medicare Part A. So the deductibles is just part of the issue. There's also going to be co-payments with Medicare Part A. A lot of people absolutely hate Medicare Advantage because of these co-pays. They don't realize that original Medicare also has co-payments. And it's possible to use up all your Part A benefits and run out of hospital coverage with Medicare Part A alone. And also keep in mind that Medicare Part B is not included in this. We'll have another video on Part B next week, but Part A is just the hospital part about Medicare. All the doctors and all the rest of that stuff go under Medicare Part B, as in boy, and that will have a separate set of charges. All right. So what exactly does original Part A cover? So we're talking about your hospital stay. It's covering the building part of your Medicare hospital stay. So it's going to cover inpatient hospital stays. It's going to cover some other things as well. We're going to break them all down. But the deductible, this is important. With Medicare Part A by itself, you start in 2025 with a deductible of $1,676 per benefit period. Now, benefit period covers you for a length of time, but you can go in and out of the hospital and you get hit with this deductible every time. Once your deductible is met, you're going to get 60 days covered for your Part A stay with a zero cost share for your Part A services. But remember, Part B is going to be ring up on a separate tab. So the doctor part is not included in this zero cost share for 60 days. But God forbid we're still in the hospital for more than 60 days. Day 61 through 90 is going to leave you a copayment of $419 per day. And remember, Part B is running separate, so the doctors who see you will go under a different account, but you're going to pay that $419 per day for days 61 through 90. And days 91 through 150 is what's called lifetime reserve days. And it's going to leave you a cost share of $838 per day you're in the hospital. And again, remember, Part B is being done separate. Now, these lifetime reserve days mean once you use them, they are gone. You can't go back and get any more hospital stays once you've used these lifetime reserve days. And anything beyond 150 days in original Medicare, you're responsible for all cost once you use those lifetime reserve days. Now, remember, very few people have Part A by itself. Medicare supplements help with this. Medicare Advantage plans have their own program. But if you only had Medicare Part A by itself, these are the risks that you run into. Now, a benefit period, this will only reset after you have not been in an inpatient or skilled care for 60 days in a row. If you've been out for 60 days, it will reset and go back to day one. So, what does that mean? That means, let's say we're in the hospital for 3 days, we come back home, so we're in those first 60 days, but then 3 weeks later, we go back into the hospital. We don't have to do that deductible again because we haven't been out of the hospital for more than 60 days. So it's in your favor under the hospital stay, not so much under skilled nursing care, we'll talk about later. But again, once we've used all these hospital days up, they are completely gone with original Medicare. All right, so Part A covers a lot of things from your semi private rooms, hospital stays, meals, skilled nursing care, and whatnot. We're going to break it down in some of the more common things that we look at. Skilled nursing care is covered under Medicare Part A, and that's when we might need to go to a nursing home to get better to come home again. We're going to define the difference between skilled care and custodial care a little bit later. Skilled care is covered, custodial care is not. While you're in that skilled nursing care, you might be receiving some rehab services. This would be like physical therapy, occupational therapy, things like that. Things to improve the quality of life is included, but it has to be about getting better to come home again. It's not just about maintaining the status quo. So if we find ourselves into a nursing home, we need to be getting better. Otherwise, Medicare and Medicare plans will stop paying. It also will cover medical supplies while you're in skilled care. It's going to include things like your hospital bed, trays, food, things like that. All that goes under Medicare Part A. Remember, Part B will cover the doctor portion of your stay in skilled care. Part A covers the supplies and the building. So under original Medicare Part A, there's a cost share for skilled care of a zero cost per day for days 1 through 20. So you got 20 days with original Medicare at no cost for the stay, but again, the doctors will go under Medicare Part B. It does require original Medicare to be in the hospital for 3 complete days before original Medicare Part A will cover skilled nursing care. That limitation is also included with Medicare supplements, but it is not with Medicare Advantage. Under Medicare Advantage plans, you don't have to be in the hospital for 3 full days first. If you have original Medicare Part A and nothing else, days 21 through 100 is going to cost you $209.50 per day with no limitation. And again, the doctor portion will be ran separately under Medicare Part B. And if we're in the skilled nursing facility under any Medicare option, whether it's original Medicare or Advantage or a supplement, days 101, you have to pay all cost. They will only cover up to 100 days per benefit period under original Medicare. Other things to be covered under original Medicare include home health care. Typically, that's with a zero cost share as long as it's a covered Medicare approved home health care visit. You might still be responsible for 20% for equipment and wheelchairs, hospital beds, and stuff like that at home, but the home health care itself would be covered. Hospice is also covered at 100% when it gets to that final stage about just being comfortable. You don't have to pay anything for the hospice services. Keep in mind, if someone under hospice falls and breaks their leg, and that's not why they're receiving hospice, they would need to have some other insurance to cover those type of expenses. Now, this is a very little known fact, but you can receive what's called respite care. Respite care is actually for the family members to be able to have them go into a skilled nursing home for a while so they can rest and recover while the caregiver gets some chance to kind of get their bearings again. So if you are in that home and you need some extra help, sometimes we can get that through respite care. All right, so Medicare Part A does cover a lot of services, but it doesn't cover everything. So there's some potential out-of-pocket expenses. And again, I'm going to say this a lot, but it does not cover the doctor portion of your hospital stay. You also need to be aware of things that are you're going to be running into, like deductibles, co-payments, co-insurance. There are no limitations under original Medicare to what those expenses could be. Medicare does not have a maximum out of pocket like all other insurance plans do. And it's going to be all over the place as far as what your out of pocket expenses could be. So it's going to be based upon the type of service, the duration of service, and some other things as well. So Medicare by itself is going to be easier for the healthcare provider. It makes it pretty easy because they don't have to get things approved. They don't have to worry about doing anything fancy with the insurance company. They just turn it in and Medicare pays the bill. However, easier for you is not necessarily, or easier for them is not necessarily good for you. Many times, nursing homes will tell my clients, hey, you just need Medicare all by itself. You don't need anything other than that. And that's because it's easier for them. It makes their job easier. Now, original Medicare with a Medigap or a Medicare supplement is going to cover those out-of-pocket expenses. So original Medicare with a Medicare supplement handles this thing pretty well. But the problem is those Medicare supplement premiums increase significantly the older that we get, sometimes up to $300, $400, $500 every month. Medicare Advantage plans at a bare minimum are going to have what's called a maximum out of pocket. And that's something that Medicare does not have. It's simply your worst case scenario, knowing that you cannot be stuck with $100,000 or anything extremely crazy with your out of pocket expense. But again, the trade-off is we're going to deal with an insurance company instead of a government program. But this is why you get to choose what you want to do on your Medicare path. Decide, do you want the government to do it or do you want an insurance company to handle it? All right, as a reminder, custodial care is not covered under original Medicare. Custodial care is simply when you cannot do your activities of daily living. Now, eventually, if we're in a nursing home because of custodial care, it's a cash pay situation until there is no more cash. Then eventually Medicaid is going to kick in after all assets and all money are gone. Then the state is going to pick up the nursing home expenses. And then once you're deceased, the state will come back and try to reclaim money that they spent on you. It is important to note that Medicare, if Medicare does not cover something, then neither will a supplement or a Medigap plan. So if Medicare doesn't cover custodial care, neither will your supplement. Now, Medicare Advantage plans sometimes are going to offer more benefits than original Medicare, but that is not, again, custodial care is not going to be covered under most plans. All right. In conclusion, Medicare Part A is part of a bigger program. Having Medicare Part A by itself could cause some major problems. Now, a lot of people have Part A with work insurance, and that's fine. If you're working, you don't need Medicare Part A yet, that's fine. It doesn't cost you anything. It's not going to do much for you either. Medicare Part A does need Medicare Part B to be fully effective. But even with A and B, without a Medicare supplement or private health insurance plan, you could have a catastrophic burden left behind. So it comes down to those two paths that I always talk about. You can choose to use Medicare with a supplement and pay for those services before you need to in those monthly premiums, or you could choose to do a private health insurance plan with Medicare Advantage. Both are options and both are good options. They're both just a different path. The only option that is not a good option is Medicare by itself. Medicare Part A alone could be very, very dangerous because there's a lot of bills that could be left behind with original Medicare. All right, that concludes our Medicare Monday for week 6. Again, my cell phone, if you need to get a hold of me, is 217-740-4166, or you can give Trish a call at the office at 217-771-1722. Thank you very much. God bless, and you guys have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.